Level 1. The Rebuilders and the Basement Dwellers. Every league needs a bottom rung, and baseball's is easy to spot. Level 1 teams are in full rebuild mode, young rosters, tiny payrolls, and the patience of saints for fan bases. These are the clubs collecting draft picks, trimming contracts, and pretending that player development is the same thing as winning. It isn't, of course, but it's the necessary pain before progress. Think about where the Oakland Athletics, Chicago White Sox, and Colorado Rockies are sitting in 2025. The A's are fielding what amounts to a AAA roster, while ownership plots a move to Las Vegas. Their payroll sits near the league's basement, and their ballpark still feels like an echo chamber of unrealized promise. The White Sox detonated their core yet again. Luis Robert Jr. is practically the last light left on the south side. The Rockies continue to mystify the baseball world with mid-tier free agent deals that never fit their timeline. Level 1 ball is the school of hard knocks. You don't tune in for pennant races, you watch to see who might actually be part of the next good version of the team. When a prospect flashes power or a young starter delivers 7 strong innings, it feels like a postseason win. The reward for enduring it is draft capital and clarity. When front offices get it right, like the Orioles did after 2021, the payoff can come fast. Baltimore jumped from 52 wins in 2021 to 83 in 2022, and then seized the AL East by 2023. That's the rebuild dream. Crawl, walk, run, then sprint past everyone before they notice you've arrived. Being level 1 hurts, but it also resets everything. Bad contracts vanish. Roster clutter clears. Prospects get real playing time. The best rebuilds create a foundation sturdy enough to support a decade of contention. The worst rebuilds loop endlessly, promising tomorrow while losing 100 games today. Still, baseball has a funny memory. No matter how long the darkness lasts, the first winning season that follows wipes away a surprising amount of pain. Level 1 is humiliation with hope. A reminder that before any franchise becomes a powerhouse, it has to admit it's broken. Level 2. The hopeful risers and competitive but flawed. Here's where things start to get interesting. Level 2 teams aren't hopeless, but they're not consistent either. They've climbed out of the rebuild trenches, patched some holes, and discovered what works, but not quite enough of it to sustain a playoff push across 162 games. They're that maddeningly in-between phase, good enough to beat anyone, yet unreliable enough to frustrate everyone. Look at the Detroit Tigers right now. They've got a core of promising arms. Tarek Skubal, Reese Olson, and Casey Mize, and a young lineup anchored by Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. On paper, it looks like a franchise ready to pop. But paper doesn't pitch in high-leverage innings. The bullpen still wobbles, the lineup still disappears for weeks, and every winning streak seems to trigger a letdown series. That's level 2 in a nutshell. Optimism colliding with reality. Or take the Pittsburgh Pirates. After years of irrelevance, they finally got something that resembles a plan. Paul Skeens looks like an ace in the making. O'Neal Cruz brings nightly electricity, and Ke'Bryan Hayes continues to vacuum up grounders at third. But there's always a gap, an injury, a thin bench, or an offense that still needs another big bat. The Boston Red Sox live here too, albeit for different reasons. They have the payroll of a contender, but the inconsistency of a rebuild. Rafael Devers rakes, the young arms flash potential, and Fenway still fills up, but the team keeps bouncing between hot streaks and mediocrity. Level 2 teams are defined by flashes. They win a series against the Dodgers, then drop 2 of 3 to the Royals. They look like future contenders in April and lottery teams by August. But that volatility hides real progress. These are the seasons where future All-Stars get their reps, front offices test what works, and clubs find out which young players can handle the weight of 162. If Level 1 is about collecting talent, Level 2 is about learning how to use it. These teams are the league's wildcards, capable of embarrassing a contender or imploding in spectacular fashion. You can feel they're on the cusp of something, even if you can't quite see what yet. When you follow a Level 2 team, you live on hope and caffeine. You watch every young starter's outing like it's a crystal ball. You celebrate small wins like a prospect finding his swing or a reliever discovering command. Because if enough of those small wins stack up, one spring everything clicks and the conversation shifts from next year to this year. That's the magic of Level 2. It's messy, it's inconsistent, but it's the final proving ground before relevance. Level 3. The Wildcard Contenders. This is where the real drama starts. Level 3 teams live in that chaotic middle ground between solid respectability and genuine threat. They're good, sometimes very good, but not invincible. They figured out how to win, how to hang with the heavyweights, but they still lack that final piece that transforms them from tough matchup to championship favorite. These are the teams that keep analysts arguing on talk shows, that give fans ulcers in September, and that make every night at the ballpark feel just a little too important. They're good enough to believe in, but flawed enough to break your heart. Think of the Seattle Mariners. They've built one of the most exciting rotations in the game. Luis Castillo, George Kirby, and Logan Gilbert could headline almost any staff. Julio Rodriguez has become a legitimate face of baseball, playing with energy that lights up the entire Pacific Northwest. Yet the offense still sputters at the worst times. Every season feels like a coin flip: win 90 games and sneak into October, or fall just short and spend the winter wondering what could have been. The Tampa Bay Rays might be the most famous Level 3 team of the past decade. Year after year, they find themselves in the mix despite having one of the smallest payrolls in baseball. Their front office is practically a laboratory for innovation. Openers, platoons, and endless waves of unknown pitchers who somehow throw 98. They're good enough to scare anybody in a short series, yet not built to sustain dominance. Or take the Arizona Diamondbacks. They shocked the world in 2023 by sneaking into the postseason and sprinting all the way to the World Series. It was the perfect Level 3 story. Young talent catching fire at the right moment, defying every prediction. But the following season reminded everyone how thin that line is. That's what defines Level 3: volatility. These teams are always one break away from glory or one slump away from collapse. They're talented enough to beat the best team, but rarely deep enough to survive 162 games without help. Their fans spend entire seasons balancing cautious optimism with existential dread. But there's something beautiful about that chaos. Level 3 baseball feels alive. Every game matters, every win feels earned, and every playoff chase feels personal. These teams create October magic, the kind of underdog runs that make even neutral fans tune in. Front offices love Level 3 because it's proof the plan is working. You've developed real stars, you're winning series, and national broadcasters actually say your name in playoff graphics. But it's also a crossroads. Do you double down, spend big, and push for the top? Or stay patient, risk regression, and hope the current core matures naturally? Some franchises make the leap, like the Astros did in the mid-2010s. Others stall, like the Angels, perpetually talented, perpetually stuck. Moving from Level 3 to Level 4 takes courage, precision, and a front office willing to gamble. Level 4. The true contenders and division powerhouses. This is where belief turns into expectation. Level 4 teams don't enter a season hoping to make the playoffs, they expect to. Anything less is a disappointment. These are the rosters that front offices assemble with spreadsheets, swagger, and a sense of urgency. They've got the talent, the budget, the experience, and the fan base that demands October baseball every single year. A Level 4 team isn't trying to find its identity, it already knows who it is. The lineup has thumpers who've been there before, the rotation has at least one ace, and the bullpen has arms that can shut the door when the lights get bright. When the season starts, it's not about development anymore, it's about domination. The Philadelphia Phillies embody this perfectly. Since 2022, they've become the National League's chaos engine. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, and Trey Turner headline one of the most intimidating lineups in baseball, and the vibes in Citizens Bank Park every October are electric. They don't always play perfect baseball, but when that team catches fire, they're almost unstoppable. Then there's the Houston Astros. They've been the American League's measuring stick for nearly a decade. 7 straight ALCS appearances between 2017 and 2023, 2 World Series titles, and a reputation for showing up when it matters most. Even as veterans leave, new stars like Yordan Alvarez, Kyle Tucker, and Framber Valdez keep them at the top. They don't rebuild, they reload. The Los Angeles Dodgers sit here too, though they've arguably been flirting with Level 5 for years. They've made the postseason every year since 2013, won 100-plus games in 5 of the last 7 full seasons, and are a model of consistency. When they lose early in October, fans call it a failure. which says everything about the standard they've set. The Toronto Blue Jays have spent years collecting elite talent: Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Bo Bichette, and a rotation stacked with strikeout stuff, yet they've been trapped between potential and payoff. When they're locked in, they can hang with anyone. But a few underperforming bats or bullpen blunders, and it all comes undone. Level 4 teams are built for pressure. They know what failure feels like, and they use it as fuel. Their managers are battle-tested, their stars accustomed to cameras and clutch moments, and their fan base is fiercely loyal but brutally honest. The thing that separates Level 4 teams from those below isn't just talent, it's maturity. They've learned how to win the games they're supposed to win. They've figured out how to balance analytics with instinct, development with aggression. And when the postseason comes, they're not hoping to be invited, they're preparing to stay a while. Level 5. The Juggernauts and era-defining teams. At Level 5, we've crossed into a different atmosphere. These teams don't just contend, they control the conversation. Every move they make sets a precedent. Every transaction shakes the market, and every October, they're penciled in as favorites. They don't ride waves of luck or hope, they are the wave. Level 5 franchises define their era. They're the teams that force other front offices to copy their playbook, whether that's the way they scout, develop, or deploy analytics. They're not temporary powerhouses, they're architectural marvels, built to withstand injuries, slumps, and time itself. The Atlanta Braves are the most obvious example in today's game. Since their 2021 World Series win, they've turned the National League East into their personal kingdom. Their front office has mastered the art of long-term extensions, locking up young stars like Ronald Acuna Jr., Austin Riley, and Spencer Strider to team-friendly deals that secure their core for nearly a decade. They don't panic, they don't rebuild, they sustain. Then there's the Los Angeles Dodgers, who've cemented their spot among the elite. Their combination of superstar talent, deep development pipeline, and unlimited payroll flexibility makes them the sports model of modern success. One year they win with veterans like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, the next with rookies who look like they've been in the league forever. They don't rebuild, they regenerate. And then we have the Houston Astros, the franchise everyone loves to hate. Say what you will about their past scandals, but the numbers don't lie. 7 straight ALCS appearances, multiple pennants, and 2 championships in 6 years. That's sustained greatness on a level baseball hasn't seen since the Yankees dynasty of the late 90s. What makes Level 5 teams so dangerous is depth. It's not just about the stars. It's about the 4th outfielder who hits .280, the reliever with a wipeout slider who appears out of nowhere. These organizations are machines, and every part fits perfectly. Level 5 also comes with swagger. You can feel it when they walk into a visiting park. The unspoken confidence that says, "You might beat us tonight, but we'll beat you in the series." They don't fear pressure, they thrive on it. But Level 5 teams have earned something most franchises never will: the benefit of the doubt. When the Braves lose a key starter, fans don't panic. They assume the next man up will be just as good. That's what sustained excellence buys you: trust. Every era has its juggernauts. The 2020s might belong to the Braves. These teams don't just rack up wins, they change how we measure success. They make greatness look routine. Level 6. The Dynasties and Hall of Fame franchises in motion. This is the echelon where dominance hardens into legend. Level 6 teams don't just control a single era. They leave a footprint that future generations will measure themselves against. They combine success, longevity, and influence to the point where their name alone carries weight. Level 6 isn't just about winning titles, it's about owning time. These teams create sustained windows of relevance that stretch across multiple rosters and even managerial changes. They've been great long enough that entire fan generations only know them as contenders. That's not luck, that's infrastructure. The Houston Astros have been walking this path for years. Since 2017, they've reached the ALCS every season except one, collected 2 World Series titles, and maintained a roster that seems immune to regression. The names have changed: Springer, Correa, Verlander, gone. But the machine keeps running. That kind of consistency over nearly a decade is not an accident. It's dynasty DNA. The Los Angeles Dodgers fit here too. One championship doesn't tell the full story of what they've accomplished. They've essentially become baseball's version of a luxury brand: elegant, expensive, and expected to perform. Their ability to develop talent while also writing nine-figure checks for superstars has redefined what sustainable success looks like. The farm system keeps producing, the stars keep performing, and the postseason berths keep coming. And let's talk about the Atlanta Braves, who may be building the league's next great dynasty before our eyes. Their front office's foresight, locking up young stars to long-term deals early, might go down as one of the smartest organizational strategies of the 2020s. The result? A roster that's not just talented, but stable. Level 6 teams share defining traits: organizational patience, player loyalty, and postseason experience that borders on muscle memory. When they lose, it's national news. When they win, it feels inevitable. The difference between Level 5 and Level 6 is permanence. Level 5 is dominance. Level 6 is identity. These teams don't just lead an era, they become the story of it. They change the way the sport operates, forcing rivals to rethink their approach to scouting, contracts, and player development. The thing about dynasties, though, is they're fragile. Sustaining greatness for a decade requires balancing egos, aging rosters, and the ever-present target on their backs. Everyone wants to beat them, but somehow they keep coming back. Level 7. The Immortals and Baseball Royalty. This is the summit. The top of the mountain where few franchises ever stand for long. Level 7 teams aren't just successful, they are baseball. Their history, their players, their rivalries, all of it has become woven into the cultural fabric of the sport itself. Level 7 is permanence, the kind of legacy that makes fans across generations wear the same hat their grandparents did, the kind that inspires documentaries, debates, and decades of nostalgia. When you think of the sport's identity, these are the first names that come to mind. The New York Yankees have lived here for nearly a century, 27 World Series championships, 40 pennants, and a global brand recognized from Tokyo to Toronto. Even when they're not winning, they're relevant. They built entire decades of dominance, the DiMaggio years, the Mantle years, the Jeter years, and somehow always seem one big signing away from restarting the cycle. Their pinstripes aren't just a uniform, they're an institution. Then there are the Los Angeles Dodgers, a franchise that's evolved from Brooklyn grit to West Coast glamour. They integrated baseball with Jackie Robinson, pioneered modern player development, and built a dynasty of consistency in the 21st century. They become the gold standard of how to merge tradition with innovation. The St. Louis Cardinals are baseball's conscience, a franchise steeped in tradition, sportsmanship, and success. 11 World Series titles, the second most in history, and an unwavering fan base that fills Busch Stadium even when the team's in transition. The Cardinals embody the game's soul, steady, respectful, and always competitive. The Boston Red Sox earned their immortality the hard way, through heartbreak, curses, and redemption. The 86-year wait between 1918 and 2004 wasn't just a drought, it was a saga. But when they finally broke through, they didn't stop. Titles in 2004, 2007, 2013, and 2018 solidified them as one of the modern game's true giants. And then, of course, there are the Chicago Cubs, a franchise so beloved that even their failures become mythic. For over a century, they were America's sentimental favorite, the lovable losers, whose heartbreak somehow endeared them even more to the sport. When they finally won the World Series in 2016, it wasn't just a championship, it was a national event. Level 7 teams don't need to prove themselves anymore. Their greatness isn't just measured in trophies but in influence. They define the game's aesthetic, its stories, its very language. When kids pick up a bat, they dream of playing in Yankee Stadium or Wrigley Field. These ballparks aren't venues, they're cathedrals. But staying immortal takes work. Immortality doesn't mean perfection, it means expectation. The price of greatness is that fans demand it forever. Level 7 teams carry the weight of history on their shoulders, but it's a burden they've earned. Their legacies outlive players, managers, even ownership. They're cultural landmarks, synonymous with excellence and emotion. Why these levels matter? These levels help fans, players, and front offices understand where their franchise truly stands, not by hype, but by substance. It's easy to think your team is a piece or two away from glory, but baseball rarely works that cleanly. Rebuilds stall, contenders regress, juggernauts collapse under their own expectations. This system reveals how fragile and cyclical greatness really is. For fans, it offers perspective. You can watch your team's 75-win season and still feel hope if you understand where you are on the climb. For front offices, it's a mirror. It shows who's progressing strategically and who's just treading water. And for the league as a whole, it's a pulse check, a way to track which cities are writing the next chapter of baseball history. Teams that know their level can plan accordingly. The worst mistakes happen when a Level 2 team spends like a Level 5 club or when a Level 5 team pretends it can coast forever. Every dynasty is temporary. Every rebuild has an expiration date. You're either climbing or falling. In the MLB, there's no such thing as standing still. Wrapping it up. When you watch baseball, you're not just watching wins and losses. You're watching stories evolve in real time. You're watching front offices gamble, players grow, and fan bases dream. You're watching empires rise and fall. Every summer, a new chapter in the same timeless narrative. Every franchise fits somewhere in these 7 levels. Some are clawing their way out of the basement. Some are savoring their moment at the top. And a rare few, the Immortals, are guarding their place in history. The next dynasty could be forming right now, and most of us won't even realize it until we look back a few years from now and say, that's when it started. Maybe it's the Braves, maybe the Orioles, maybe someone we're not even paying attention to yet. That's the beauty of baseball. It's a long game, and greatness always sneaks up on you. Thanks for going deep with us on the 7 levels of MLB teams. If you enjoyed this breakdown, hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss the next episode. Drop a comment below and tell us which team you think is climbing the fastest, or which one might be headed for a rebuild before they realize it. Until next time, keep your eye on the standings, trust your gut, and remember, every legendary franchise, every future dynasty, and every immortal baseball name once started at Level 1.